Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a virtual Llama Town Hall this Sunday. Thank you so much for joining us. If I could direct your attention to our ad, we have a live day-long virtual meditation retreat coming up with Lama Surya. That's April 29th, uh, this upcoming Saturday, and June 10th. Register and save 10%. You can find the link to that at dzogchen.org, and I'll post a link at the end. Today, we're joined by our wonderful Kelley Amadei, who's going to be leading us in meditation and teaching. So, Kelley, without further ado, take it away.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Always so lovely to be with you and see you all. I'm in beautiful Charlotte, North Carolina for the weekend, and I am appreciating the temperate weather. It's, as much as we try to find our inner peace inside, sometimes the weather makes all the difference. Sometimes a little bit of sunshine is all we need. So I've been appreciating that here. I'm just gonna give everyone a minute. I know there's some few people popping into the waiting room still. So as we arrive, take care of yourself. Settle into your seat. Stretch it out. Find the posture that is going to be in most service of what you need right now. Pardon me, I dropped my stick from my bowl. Okay. Every Friday I teach mindfulness at a elementary school. It's preschool through 8th grade. And one of the first practices that I taught the kids was a simple singing bowl listening exercise. And I was just reminded of it this is a new singing bowl, as I was ringing it, where we just follow the sound. So I'm going to ring it one more time, just as a shout out to my little kitties. And let's follow the sound. And just notice the quality of trying to follow the sound online and see if that's what that's like. So as Alex said, I'm Kelley Amadei Marme. Many of you have seen me here before. I'm a senior student of Lama Surya's and honored to be able to practice with you today. We're going to talk a little bit about fear today and how to use our practice to work with fear. I'm imagining if you're like me, most of you encounter fear potentially throughout your day, but maybe just occasionally. So regardless of the frequency at which you experience it, it's a really interesting emotion to work with. Biologically, we are wired to use fear as a indicator of action generally, right? So we're biologically wired to avoid pain and seek pleasure. And back in the day, that meant, recognizing that there was a wild animal in the area that was potentially going to end our life. And so that fear response was useful. It's a useful emotion to save us. But I think, I can't speak for what it might have been like back then, but fear has evolved to, I think, be both. It has evolved to be an emotion that definitely serves us. It's an alarm system for us to be aware of what's happening, either psychologically or emotionally or physically. But I also think that our fear response has ratcheted up quite a bit, certainly over these last few years. But I think just in general, and as we've evolved, our fear response now is responding more to, because we're fairly privileged in this country, or in the Western Hemisphere, let's say, our fear response is more attuned to emotional and psychological fear, real or perceived. And we're not often getting a fear response in response to something that is going to be life-threatening. But our brain doesn't decipher between a physical threat and a psychological or an emotional threat. And so I think that's one of the reasons this is just good material to work with. How do we investigate it, look into it? What is fear? Where does it come from? How does it serve us? And how does it get in our way? And then what to do about that. So even just as we're sitting here right now, as you're settling into your seat, and you might be thinking, it's not what I wanted to talk about today. I didn't really want to think about fear today. Came to Meditation Town Hall to move away from that, to have some refuge, to have some respite from this world around us that is beautiful and also can be very difficult. Or maybe you're excited about the notion of working with fear today. So even just notice your mind's response to the idea of today's Dharma talk. Without judgment. Part of what I find fascinating about being born into this human form is all the things that come with it. And then it tends to be those things that come with it that we feel like we're supposed to get rid of or avoid. So just being humans on this earth, the Buddha said, we're born onto this plane and we can expect these things to come with it: lust and greed, hatred and ill will, agitation of the mind, sloth, and doubt. And there's all different words you can use for those emotions or those experiences. So just at the onset, without even trying to do anything, we come in with this as our sort of buffet menu of options emotionally. And there's no avoiding it. There's no avoiding it. There's no moment in which we don't have difficult emotions that are there for us, that are there as part of this human experience. You could call that suffering, right? You could call even just the way that we relate to those experiences the nature of our suffering. And I don't know about you, but I've spent a lot of my life trying to avoid all of these things, right? Trying to avoid lust and greed, trying to avoid fear, trying to avoid hatred, certainly. That's a very strong word. Or ill will. Trying to get rid of my agitation, trying to get rid of my laziness when it comes up, trying to eradicate my doubt. And you can really get caught in that cycle of being hooked by those human experiences. And what I love about our practice, the beautiful part of our practice, is it allows us to build the awareness, cultivate the awareness that there's a both and. That there is, when we are still, when we cultivate our practice, we get a glimpse of all that is. We can see it as separate from ourselves, but still in existence. It doesn't feel like it's an internal part of us. There's enough of a distance that we are a witness to it. So when we're in that place inside of ourselves, where we're still and we are in touch with our rigpa, with our innate being, we are the witness. And when we are enmeshed in the emotions, when we are enmeshed in the experience of feeling the hatred, the ill will, the frustration, the aversion, we are in our human form, and we can't escape it. We can't escape our human form. It's what we're here to do. And so how do we play with both? How do we move in and out of allowing our human form to have a human experience, to experience suffering as suffering, while also cultivating the awareness and the attention and the witness to the interconnection of all? Seeing suffering as grace, which we know is true, right? Suffering is there for us. And yet, we spend our lives working to eliminate suffering. So here's the paradox of humanness. And so we're going to do a little bit of work of being with our humanness, being with our ego, and also being, and these words are limited, but say either behind it or beneath it or above it, with our consciousness, with our rigpa nature, with our expansive awareness, and see how we relate to fear from both of those places. And to do this work without an attachment to an outcome, to do this work without an attachment to a feeling that'll exist and be pervasive once you're done with the work. Be with it in the moment. Loving our way through the darkness, knowing that on the other side of it there's light, but not eradicating the darkness, not making the darkness wrong. So where does fear come from? In my experience, fear comes from our identification with feeling separate. Separate from source, separate from each other. The idea that we're somehow separate, and then in that separateness, vulnerable. Vulnerable to physical pain, which can't be avoided. Vulnerable to emotional pain, disappointment. And when we are in our true nature, what's the thing that we know is true? That we're not separate. There is no separateness. That we are all one. And so it's such a subtle shift between the separateness and the oneness. And in my experience, when you start to think about it too much, it gets me lost and confused. And so I try to experience it in an embodied way, dropping down into the freedom, dropping down into the knowledge that suffering, that fear, that it's all the same. It's like water and ice. If you think about, for those of you, I grew up in the Midwest, I grew up in Chicago, and if you think about the lake, in the middle of the winter, Lake Michigan freezes. And there's a thick form of ice at the top of the lake. And underneath that is moving water. And sometimes the ice can get so thick that it's so strong that you can even stand on it. You can build a hut on it. You can live a life on it. And underneath it, the water's still moving. And at the essence, that solid ice and that fluid water are the same. Molecularly, they're the same. And so suffering and fear are two sides of the same thing. It's not separate from our oneness, from our pure, true nature. And so if we can drop down and identify with the part of us that is not separate, we can see both sides, which aren't, in essence, they're not really sides, they're one. They're non-dual. When we feel separate, we're identifying with that which is in time and space, that which is changing. So when we're separate, we're outside of something, and so time and space are separate from us. And that mere fact that time always equals change will provide the unending opportunity for there to be fear, because we're trying to respond to change. And if we can drop down into the freedom, and even if it's just for a moment, even if it's just a part of you that can identify with the part of you that is not separate, that part of you that is divine, it dissipates that fear. Because you're not riding the roller coaster, you're just moving slowly with the waves. It's a part of you that is not afraid. And then, here, we're right back into fear, right? We're right back into fear. And fear comes from losing that connection to that source, the source of our light, the source of our freedom. But here we are in this human form, and we're choosing depending on your belief system. We've chosen this path. We've chosen to be here to do this work in this incredibly fruitful but difficult realm. Being born into a human form gives you all the opportunity for enlightenment and awakening, because there's so much work that can be done here. And so if we look at it as a game, so we've chosen to play this game. We've chosen to play this game where we look around the corner and there's something scary. We walk out our door and we don't know what's coming. We pick up the phone and we don't know what news we're going to get on the other end of that line. We are constantly putting ourselves on the path of all the possibilities of things that might scare us, all the possibilities of things that might disappoint us, while at the same time, we've put ourselves in the path of all the things that might bring us deep joy and gratification and peace and harmony. But they don't happen without each other. And so it's, when you sit with it, it's kind of funny to think, what I want to avoid is suffering and fear, but here I am in this human form, and I'm playing this game where at any moment in time, something scary might happen. And so what am I doing? How do I do this? How do I work with this? How do I know that, just like when we go to sleep and we have a scary dream and wake up and feel the relief that it was just a dream, why do we buy into that and believe that is true more easily than we buy into the idea that the fear and the suffering that we're experiencing when we're awake is real? And so just working back and forth between those two ideas, that suffering and not suffering are the same. They're two different states of the same thing. And so we're going to do a practice today where we're going to work to allow our suffering to be released, to melt like the ice, to seep out of us, seep into the ground, to seep into the earth around us, to allow it to nourish and feed that scorched earth around us so that we can build a garden of immeasurable love and compassion. But we're going to do this without doing anything. So if you sit to heal, and if you sit to try to let it go, and if you sit to try to let it melt and let it dissipate and force it, it's not going to feel the same. And so we're going to sit and we're going to trust and we're going to allow it to work itself out while we're with it. And the life force that will be created around us by releasing our own suffering will be beautiful and bountiful. And the beautiful thing about Dzogchen is that it agrees with everything. I've said this before. Dzogchen agrees with everything. All is there and all is here. All is there and there is right here. And so no matter what we do in this moment, during this practice, it's the right thing. So resettle yourself and let all of those words drop away. Don't try to figure any of it out. Let the words drop away. Settle yourself into your seat. We're going to do a little warm up. Do a little chanting. And then we're going to sit. I'm going to guide you through a meditation to work with this. Alex, will you bring up the refuge and bodhicitta? And I invite you to listen to what you need right now. If you'd like to participate and chant along with us, do so. And if you'd like it to just wash over you, there's no collective voices because it's just mine because we're on Zoom, but just let it wash over you. It's a practice of no shoulds. Just be. Sanjay Chodang Suki Chuknam La Jangchu Pardu Dakni Kapsuchi Daki Chin Soki Pe Sonam Ki Drola Penchir Sanjay Drupar Shul. In Buddha, Dharma, and Supreme Spiritual Community, we go for refuge until fully enlightened. By the power of all six perfections, from generosity to non-dual wisdom, for the sake of all beings, may we realize Buddhahood. And if you could scroll down to the four immeasurables. May all beings possess happiness and the inner causes of happiness. May all beings be free from suffering and the inner causes of suffering. May all beings remain undivided from the sacred joy which is free from suffering. May all beings come to rest in great peace and equanimity, beyond attachment and aversion to friends, enemies, or strangers. So as we set this as our intention for ourselves and for others, that the merits of our practice impact all beings, we can know that even if we don't do anything else right now, we've made a difference. Sit, arrive, feel your body in space and time, in the chair or on the couch or on the floor, wherever you're sitting. Feel the weight of it sinking down into the support. Feel the support of that seat rising up to support you, to hold you, to meet you. And notice if there's anything that needs to be done there, or is it just happening on its own? Feel your feet, feel your hands. Notice your jaw. Is it clenched? Is it relaxed? If you can, relax it just a little. Allow your awareness to settle into the space in which all thoughts and feelings and sensations appear. Nothing to do, nowhere to be, just noticing. Open and aware. Expansive like the sky. Aware of all things that may be passing through that space. Sensations, feelings, thoughts. Not pushing anything away and not pulling anything towards you. Just allowing the natural state to arise and dissipate as it does when left alone. And see if you can feel the subtle discernment between Sen, your ego mind, the mind that experiences the frustration, the anger, the fear, the irritation, the discomfort, the one that identifies with those feelings. Maybe even think of something right now. You don't have to think about the biggest, scariest, hairiest issue, but think of something right now that irritates you. Bring it to mind. It could be a person, could be an experience, could be something you have to do. Just feel what you feel when you bring that to mind. Now take a deep breath. And without getting rid of that feeling or that identification, see if you can expand your awareness to be aware of the one that is irritated or afraid. Who is the I that is afraid? And who or what is aware of the I that is afraid? Where is the awareness? Where is the witness? Who is the witness? And who is the experiencer? As you breathe, allow that awareness to continue to expand. And watch the show. Watch the display. You're not doing anything, not forcing, not pushing, just sitting and feeling. Where is the feeling? You be present with it without holding it, without healing it. Maybe some discomfort arises. Maybe you want to move away or distract yourself, avoid it. But instead, you're just going to sit with it without doing anything. And if you begin to get uncomfortable, I invite you to just put your palms down. If there's a surface near you, put your palms down and press them into that surface just so you feel the contact. Giving it an outlet to fall away from and into. Breathing in the presence of our suffering. Breathing out, aware of it, but allowing it to be outside of us. Expanding your awareness outward, feeling the edge of your physical being, the edge of your metta, rigpa awareness. See if you can feel both at the same time. And slowly, gently, turn that awareness inside out. Turn that awareness inward. Noticing the quality of the sensation. And now shift the awareness outward and inward at the same time. Simultaneously breathing in the light while being the light. Allowing our natural love and compassion to fill the space, emanating outward and inward. Receiving while giving. Releasing our need to do anything, just be. being in the presence of fear, being in the presence of suffering, rather than identified with. I'll say that again. Feel what it feels to be in the presence of. Allowing it to be there without identifying with it. What does that feel like? This is the path of awakening to who and what we truly are. It's not outside in. No matter what is happening, here we are. All of it there all at once. Pandemics and sickness, war and suffering, fear and physical pain, spring emerging, buds blooming, the sun shining. All of it coexisting. And here we are, open to it all, in the presence of it all. Machik mala sowadet. Machik mala sowadet. Machik mala sowadet. Karpo mi jingi lo. Marpo ai jinji lo nung po hung ji jinji lo kusun toki jinjen po ma yum jen go pang to Parshuk. Om, Mother Machik, to you I pray. Machik, to you I pray. Machik, to you I pray. Empower me through the white Om. Empower me through the red Ah. Empower me through the blue Hum. Transmit to me your enlightened body, speech, and mind. May I attain the realization of perfect wisdom. Let's do the dedication of merit to universal enlightenment. Sonam di tamche zikpak ni tobne ne pedranam pamje ne kega nachi balab trukpa yi sipe sole drowa sho. By the power of this meritorious practice, may the real enemies, our own projections and misdeeds, be overcome, and sublime realization fully attained, so we may free beings from the miseries of birth, old age, disease, and death, the stormy waves of the ocean of samsara. And the dedication of virtue to complete realization. Gewadi nudu dak zopa chempo drukyurne drowa chikyang malupa deyi sala goparsho. Through this virtue, may we swiftly realize and fully embody the natural great perfection, and thereby bring all, without exception, to its complete realization. Any questions, comments, sharing? Please either raise your hand or send a question to Alex and he'll ping you in. Glenda has her hand raised there, Alex. You can unmute her.
Oh, Kelley, that's so powerful. And I just want to clarify, I cry out of happiness, not sadness. Our chants and prayers are so beautiful. But something came to mind during your beautiful meditation is how I'm learning to get space between the thoughts, how to lean back. And you commented some other time when you led group about leaning back off the cliff, if I remember this right. And this isn't literal, we never do something like that, but spiritually, letting go of the person I used to be gives me the space to lean back. So many times it happened where, I just get the thought from a higher Buddha nature, just lean back and let go. And I fall back off the cliff, and it's just and I don't do anything. I'm just falling back, but it's like a sieve. If you know, like a sieve that's had teeny tiny little holes, it was like a sieve came through me, made all these teeny tiny holes through me that let my light radiate out. And then I don't remember ever falling to the ground, but there I am laying on the groundless ground and all this light's coming out. But what we're doing with these meditations is mingling our mind with space, with our holiness, to lean back off these thoughts and feelings that aren't our reality. But wow, it's a beautiful journey because during it, some of this shit really looks real.
Thank
Thanks,
you for your
Kelley.
share. Yeah, my
Thanks,
pleasure.
Kelley.
Thank you, Glenda.
Yeah.
As Lama always says, the bad news is you're jumping out of an airplane with no parachute. And the good news is there's no ground.
Yeah. The groundless ground. Yes. Yes. Vast emptiness, the luminous emptiness catches us. We lean on it. We rest in it. Oh, heck, I'm not muted. Sorry.
That's okay. Yeah.
Beautiful,
And
Kelley. Thank you so much. This has been just an absolutely amazing talk. We always love having you here to teach in your imperturbable authenticity in the face of all obstacles and fear. It's really, really beautiful to have you and your
thank you.
wise perspective. And thank
My
you to all
pleasure.
of you, friends. I so appreciate you joining us again for another Sunday. Hopefully, see you next Sunday or on retreat, on our one-day retreat, April 29th. The link is in the chat. Don't forget, these free events and things are made possible to help Llama's mission of transmission, and we can't do it alone. Consider a donation or joining as a member. Thank you so much, everyone. See you next
Thank you,
time.
everyone. Love to you all. Have a wonderful week.